Well, again, I just did say it off camera, but again, welcome back, Tomas. I know, it's hard to remember every YouTuber you talk to, but we actually got to talk together in the beginning of the year for the Dawn of Solace's Flame of Perdition.
Yeah.
And here we are, man, talking about Wolfheart's album, King of the North, man. Congratulations.
And thank you. I was Athens at that time also. This is the both times I'm in Athens this year is we doing the interview in different hotels. Started to be a tradition already.
I had to kind of double check. I was like, wait a minute, Dawn of Solace was this year. And then we talked about how you really like just creating music. But right from the first song, I got to check out the album a couple of times already. For me personally, right from Skyforger, I noticed a different sound. Like Wolfheart evolved a little bit.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's Vangelis kind of entering the band and being recruited. Maybe you changed the way you approach writing music to kind of take advantage of his skills, or...
Well, it was also already like a clear decision when I got the Wolf of Karelia album done. That now I knew exactly that I want to go back to more in the direction of the debut album. Winterborn, which is like getting tempos a little bit slower. Not that they are slow now anyway, but and also a little bit different kind of melodic. And naturally knowing that Vangelis and Lauri both will bring a lot more to the table with the vocals, having three vocalists in the band instead of one. So of course it affected in a good way the songwriting, because now I had like additional tools, because my vocals is just a percussion. I can only bring like rhythmical elements with my vocals. Having two melodic voices on the album is basically adding two completely new instruments. So that gives a lot more like a space to write the music about.
I was going to mention that the contrast in vocals to your growls and their singing, I think really gave it a nice flow throughout the album. That also accompanied a lot of the melody, and at least in the past couple albums, I'm comparing in my mind progression. There was a lot of interesting progression and solos in the music that I thought was like, wow, I kind of wasn't expecting this, but this is really cool and really good.
Yeah, that's what we really try to do also. It's not that easy to surprise the listeners when you are this far with so many albums done already. And well, it was pretty easy because of course Vangelis and Lauri brought new elements already, like with them. We didn't need to sit down and start thinking about what we could or should add. That came automatically. But I was really encouraging that in the studio also, that they don't try to do Wolfheart stuff, but they do their own thing that we're gonna take part as a Wolfheart.
I was gonna mention that. I was gonna ask you. I don't know, like, should I ask this question? Shouldn't I? And it's, Vangelis coming from Riding Christ, and you've worked with Sakis before as well. Riding Christ is a very melodic band, especially in the second part of their career. And it looks like you just gave him kind of free reign to see how he would interject his style of playing, right, into the Wolfheart sound.
Yeah, and it's not just the playing, but the vocal range.
The vocal range,
he has a different vocal style and range than usually you hear in like metal music. And his own band, Full House Brew Crew, is very much like this Jack Wild kind of like a metal / rock and roll, but he has a different tone. He has a tone that is not that familiar in metal scene. That is a really big advantage for us because, of course, not just a new element for us in our music, but he brings something fresh to the metal scene also with his vocals. So
I agree with that. And and this, Vangelis being there, but there's also some really cool features on the album.
Yeah.
Jess Leach and one of my favorite, Carl Sanders. So as soon as I heard that, I was so excited to hear the song, and it did not disappoint. But I wanted to ask you a question that's related more to the idea of collaborations among artists in heavy metal music. It seemed to me, at least until the last 10 years, metal artists weren't so keen to collaborate with one another. And I would say maybe in the last 10 years, it's become really a thing. You've really kind of, I think, one of the proponents, but this collaboration of different minds and different styles into music only recently became kind of a thing. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. I think in metal music in general, it's not that big of a thing. It's more like mainstream music when there's this very heavily like single release orientated. The whole approach to the music is and then like combining the fan bases also is a very smart move when you have two big names and they do collaboration. metal bands are very old school when it comes to the being a band, being like a very tight group, and like adding something on top of that doesn't come that like easy. And I actually had like a clear decision before recording the latest album that we don't need any, especially on this album. We definitely don't want to have any like a guest vocals, because I already have 2 new guys basically doing vocals. There's 3 vocalists in the band, so why would we need anybody? And I never understood the name dropping thing. Like nobody will buy the album because there's one bigger guy doing one verse. It's not like a, but it was an accident. It was not supposed to happen, but it was around last October when we were already mixing the album. I got an Instagram message from one Russian fan sending me a link to Jesse's Instagram stories, and there was one of our songs in the background, and I have no connections with Jesse or Killswitch Engage. We don't share any management or label or agency or anything less. Absolutely no connection. But I had to like, because I'm kind of like a fanboy in that sense. Alive or Just Breathing was a huge album for me when I was like discovering the vocal styles and started doing growlings. And I really like, he's always been one of my favorite vocalists, even though I'm not into that vocal style. Or I can't produce it myself. So I had to write a comment on the story, like nice choice of a song. I just had to. I was like just staring my phone for like 1 minute, like, should I do it? Like, you're a grown man. But I had to write like good choice of a song. And then he replied me in a few minutes, like, yeah, I've been a fan of Wolfheart for some years already. Like one of his friends introduced me to our music. And this is like very much what he would like to do anyway. And started asking like what is going on with the band. And we were at the studio and actually started talking about new music and plans and played him some of the songs. And he was like, this is so much like my style that I would see myself doing. Like, well,
please go ahead.
Now that you mention it. So it became like as an accident, as a good one. Nothing negative about that accident. But yeah, that's... That just happened, and when that already happened, then we were already out from that box. So then I could think more freely, and then this one part in the song "Cold Flame" needed very like a low and monster sounding growling. I did my best, but I don't do that kind of. It's just not my vocal range, and I know that Carl is very much into mythology himself with the Egyptian history, so he would appreciate the theme of the album. And our vocalist knows George Goliath really well, and we've been sharing the same sound engineer on tours with Niall. So there were so many, it was so easy link just to like drop him a message like, would you be interested in doing this and this part? And he really did the job perfectly. Like it sounds like a demon or a monster, something that I could perhaps do with the insane amount of effects, but it would still sound really like shitty. So
yeah, you wanted like that presence and energy, right, that Carl brings.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you about, in terms of collaboration, all of them with Sake's, when you get in, all the other ones you've ever had before, is when you invite artists to do kind of a part in your song, are you like very specific on the vision that you have, or you like free reign, just do what you can do?
At least in the beginning, do what you do. Like I think it would be complete waste of talent and opportunity just to tell them what to do.
Okay.
Because then they would just like execute my vision. The best possible thing is that they bring something on their own to the song, and something that I didn't expect to be there. Or so we did some work with Jesse's vocals on top of his idea, but I think it would lose the whole point if I would just give the straight guidelines, do this and this and this way and sing this part, do it this way, and then I would get the files and put that in a song. It wouldn't be him like performing. It would be just like I would using him as an instrument in a way. That would be same goes with Vagelis and Lauri and anyway, like Mikko and Dawn of Solace. It's not my place to go and tell that level vocalist how to do their job. Of course, if there's something that doesn't like fit in my opinion to the song, or the mood, or the rhythmic is clumsy or something, I will mention that. But the main idea should come from the guest.
From the guest. It's something you mentioned to me last time we talked. Is you refer to yourself as somebody who's not the best at every instrument, but it's how you combine the things together. I really remember that line that you said. I didn't agree that you're not the best guitarist. You're really fucking good. It's just I understood where you were coming from. You come from this kind of composer standpoint. And I have to say, from a composition standpoint, when I was listening to this album, first of all, I thought King of the North. I went nerd and I went, oh, Game of Thrones. Did a little bit of research. No. No. It's Finnish folklore. I'm like, okay. I jumped ahead here. But this melancholic feel, I think I mentioned to you the first time, that's very prevalent in Finnish, I would say, melodic death metal scene. I would say in this album, it's not abandoned. It just becomes one of the layers to me. And there's so many more elements that kind of get layered here that I think fill out the album to be a little bit more progressive. We talked about melodic. And I want to ask you, what do you think the fans are going to be most kind of surprised about when they're going to hear this album? Because I don't think they're particularly ready for what they're going to hear.
I like the warning. I like your warning in the end. But I've known that from the past when the band does even small changes. There's like it's going to throw off some of the fans. Some fans are going to be super happy about it. Like it's always some kind of like a follow up from any change. But I would say the vocals would be the biggest thing. I think as a listener, that's where you pinpoint your ears first. The voice you hear on top of the music. And I think the layers and everything will use kind of peel layer by layer when you listen to the album more. But the initial, I don't want to use the word shock because I don't think it's that big a deal.
I don't think it's particularly shocking. It's just different.
But yeah, I think the vocals are going to be the biggest impact. When you listen to the album the first time, that's the thing that like points out the most. But I don't feel that we need to warn the audience.
Well, you know what it was what I meant by that. I'll go back and say this. It's like I thought the singles were great when I listened to them, and I'm like, oh, this sounds like Wolfheart. That's kind of how I thought about it. When I last sat down and listened to the album from beginning to the end, I'm like, oh no, I would say this is better. This is like, to me personally, and I'm a relatively new fan, maybe like a year or two. I've kind of gone through all your material. I would say that this is the best thing you guys ever done, in my opinion.
I would agree with that.
It's like a culmination of all the lessons and things that you've learned from Dawn of Solace, from Before the Dawn, from Wolfheart. It seems like it comes together into this thing that is King of the North.
That was the goal. But I was checking out the comments of the second single, King.
Yeah.
Where Vangelis does both verses, and he has a really big role in the vocals. Of course, that will give like completely new element to our music. I already see one comment there that like I'm abandoning all the old fans. But it's some people take smallest things so strongly, so it's. But if people would just listen to the album from beginning to the end, they will hear why everything is there as they should be. But
it's funny that you say that, because I did a reaction to King and I came away, I'll be honest, I'm like, I don't know. And then I go right at the end, I'm like, it's going to depend how it fits within the album.
Yeah.
And when I listened to the album and how it fits into the album, not only did I like the song, it's like, this totally makes sense how it kind of fits within this, what started off like some songs are very melodic and very kind of, I would say, soft. And then this harsh, fast, almost like black metal style. It really fits in nicely into this overall thing. Because I'm just like you. I like from the beginning to the end. That's the only way I like listening to albums.
And that was quite a big challenge when we were deciding the single songs. Because there's not a single song, there's not a song in the album that would like represent the whole album. Like every song is connected to the one that is before and after it on the track list. So making the decision of the 3 single songs and the order of the songs, what is the order, how we present the new elements to the fans, and still somehow try to like represent what is the album about, not just the singles. So I think it's really important that the people will listen to the album also, not just the singles as a standalones, because the whole album is composed to be a one whole experience of music, not just individual blocks.
Yeah, I agree. I've listened to it 2 times at this point, and I think the second time around, once the adrenaline sets in of like the excitement when you get a new album, and the adrenaline sets in and you listen to it the second time, I didn't look at song names. I went from beginning to the end. It really flowed well. But I do have to say, I mentioned in the beginning, Cold Flame. Holy shit. There's almost like some power metal elements in there. At least that's how I felt.
Well, the beginning riff, yeah, it's a borderline power metal. If the drums would like a shift, if the snare would be in a different place in the drum pattern, that would be full-blown power metal. But yeah, I get that point. I had a small crisis at the studio because I really liked it. I really wanted to be there, but I did realize that this is pushing it very in the end of the spectrum where I want to have the music, but yeah, it's actually the third single also. I just got the video edited on the plane on my way here, so
I'm so happy people are going to check that out.
Definitely my favorite song on the album also.
And this also, again, I'm trying to go from memory what I remember from the other albums, but there's a lot of piano in this particular album as well, or at least the keyboard instrument that I thought also gave it a very nice feeling that, again, gave me something different, at least maybe from the production standpoint, because it does sound different production-wise. I'm not a professional. I can't pinpoint exactly what it is.
Yep, but that's good that you noticed that, because we have a different sound engineer who mixed the album. This was the first time Saku is doing our sound for the mixing of the album. He's the guy behind Dawn of Solace albums.
Oh, okay.
And because I still adored the sound of the Flames of Perdition from Dawn of Solace, I wanted to have Saku to mix this album also. And Saku did all the orchestration and the keyboards on the album. And before we used like session guys, this one guy from Finnish band called Shade Empire, insanely good with orchestrations, but it was always like an outsider just like putting his part on top of the music. But now it was our mixing engineer who also mastered the album and did production for the vocals, who did the orchestration. So he was not just doing the orchestration for the music, but also like keeping in mind the production and the mixing. What do we actually need and where to make this album sound as it should be? So this time it was a lot more like a delicate and better performed, the whole orchestration thing, because it constantly followed the guidelines of the production and how we want the song to sound in the mix, and how, because it's not like you can just add tracks on top of tracks and make it bigger. The strength of the music and the mix lies also in the air between the tracks.
Yeah,
but you know what to put there and what to leave out to make the same emotion or same effect come through the music and still have enough air between the tracks that it sounds big and powerful. So it's a completely different approach, and I'm glad that it's noticeable.
It's noticeable, and also what I really enjoy from a perspective of a listener is some albums you get to listen to, you want to hear every symbol, every element, every bass line. And here that was the case. I think you would hear it on Flames of Perdition. And on this album specifically, everything was really clear. Yeah. And you really heard everything. I think it sounded beautiful. But what I was else going to ask you is, in terms of touring, I know that you guys now finished in Athens now. What is the touring schedule going to be like? Are you guys finally going to be able to make it out to the United States? Not yet. I don't know what has changed since the last time we talked.
Well, between our talk, the pandemic went a little bit smoother. There's no restrictions. The touring is now possible, but there's also a war in Ukraine that is kind of fucking up a lot of things in at least in Europe. But we have a European tour starting 29th of September. Mm-hmm. And we already have a North American tour confirmed, but it's not announced yet, but it's for the beginning of next year.
Awesome. And
we are working on having a second European tour right after the North American tour, and then focusing on festivals. So on paper, it looks really good. There's a lot of plans, a lot of different options, but the Russian-Ukraine conflict is going to make a lot of things really complicated. The whole power shortage in Europe is going to hit the venues. It's going to, the gasoline prices have been doubled.
It's all the things people don't consider when something like this happens.
Yeah, the financial balance is completely off. The touring costs double amount when it comes to renting stuff and flying and visas and gasoline. At the same time, the venues are facing a huge rise on their just the maintenance costs. which of course is not like a metal venue or touring has ever been a gold mine to begin with. It's not like there's a huge amount of buffer money that we can just, throw away now, because so it's a lot of complications still like in the horizon, but I don't want to think too far. I'm just want to be happy now that the album is coming out. We have a tour coming up. That wasn't the case with the previous album or the previous EP. So at least we're gonna get to tour soon.
Yeah, tour soon. And what I want to do is I want to leave the last word for you for this interview. Anything you would want to tell fans, perhaps new onlookers. Sometimes I have a lot of people who don't know who you are and watch an interview. What would you want to tell them about this, I guess, album, about anything that you want to say? I want to leave the last word for you.
That is tricky. Because of course, as a songwriter point of view, those are the most fresh songs in my head. So that is the best album I've ever written. Naturally, if it's gonna be that in the long run, I will know in 1 or 2 years. But now I'm way too attached for the album. I'm just listening to the songs on daily basis, just thinking like which song we're gonna start the tour in Europe, which song we're gonna have on the festivals. It's like there's a different energy and excitement always when there's a new music, because that's connected to so many things that you look forward, and within 1 or 2 years it will like set differently. But yeah, that's the only thing I can say. It's the best album I've ever written, so check it out.
I will add one line to it, and I'll say, check it out from beginning to the end, guys.
That is a good point. Extremely good point.
I had this instilled in me since I was little with my father and my brother. He said, give the artist the respect to listen to it at least one time from begin to the end, so you can understand. It's like imagine listening to Deep Purple Burn in just one song and then turn it off.
Yeah. Tell anything about the band or the music or the art or anything.
And once again, you're a true gentleman. I really enjoy your music. I really become kind of a fan. Again, thank you for doing the interview, man.
Nice. We're gonna do probably, looking at my schedules and when I'm working at the studio at the moment, we're probably gonna talk soon again.
I don't doubt it at all. You've proven to me from the first time. Like, I finished the interview, I walked in, this guy fucking works hard. I gotta get on my ass and do something today. Like, you inspired me to move. Thanks.
But hey, thank you. Until the next time.
Take care.